We all remember from civics class about the three branches of our federal government, but do you also happen to remember why the executive, legislative, and judicial branches each have very different roles, understood as the separation of power? So how does this affect your everyday life, and why is it important to maintain? We're joined right now by attorney Allie Menegakis from Clekis Law Firm for some legal perspective this morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Great to be here.
Great to have you as always. Okay, we're kind of taking a little bit of a history lesson, taking a look back at a lot of these things that we learned about in school. What are the three branches of government, and why did our founding fathers create them?
So we have three branches, the legislative, the executive, and the judicial branch there. And so our founding fathers separated into three equal branches of government, each one having different roles. I mean, at the basic form, we have the legislative branch that creates the laws and drafts the laws, passes the laws. Then we have the executive branch, which is the president, that enforces the laws through their different departments and policing powers. And then we have the judicial branch, and they interpret the laws and sometimes find them to be unconstitutional and revoke them. So each branch is equal, each has a different piece of the puzzle when it comes to the foundations of our democracy, and it can't work without all three working together and honoring the other duties of each other.
What about checks and balances? What are those, and why do we have them?
Well, checks and balances, our founding fathers really wanted to prevent any kind of centralized power in one branch of government. Remember, before the Revolutionary War, we were dealing with a king from across the sea that was able to tax us, was able to create laws, was able to enforce laws and review laws, all from that individual person. And so by breaking them up into different roles, into branches, our founding fathers also created checks. For example, if Congress passes a law, the president can veto it. Right? Or let's say Congress passes a law and then the court can find that it's unconstitutional. Or in sometimes where, you know, a certain entity in the executive branch may not want to comply with a law, you know, Congress can withhold funds and can withhold payment of that. It also comes up when, like right now, we're talking about wartime. You know, we're at a war with Iran, and and that's one thing that we're seeing a lot of in this is question of whose responsibility and whose duty and who has the power to declare war. Well, under our Constitution, only Congress has the power to declare war. But here we see in this time that Congress actually didn't have an authorization for war. But actually it's interesting because we're coming into this point in our modern history of what kind of war power do we want the president to have. After the Vietnam War, actually, there was a war powers resolution that was passed, and that put a clock on any kind of military engagement that the president engaged with, which meant that it can't last more than 60 days. If it does, the president has to get congressional approval. But then remember, after 9/11, Congress passed the authorization for use of military force, and that basically gave more power and more broad discretion to the president to go out and find those terrorists that committed 9/11. We've seen that through each president since 9/11 use that when it comes to terrorism. And the question here today is, was this military engagement with Iran because of terrorism or because of something else? And that's a really big question that we're seeing a modern play out, a live play out of the separation of powers.
So what happens if one branch of government defies the other branches?
Well, that's really the big question, isn't it? You know, we really haven't seen yet to an extent where a presidential authority has completely defied any kind of other branch. One of the great things about our democracy is that each branch agrees with and complies with their duties and their checks and balances. If you remember when we were dealing with segregation and desegregating of schools, some of the governors in different states did not want to comply with that, and the president actually forced integration in those schools. So when you see one branch not complying with another, we can see them using policing powers, for example. However, one interesting thing is that the judicial branch doesn't have a policing power. So it really can come down to Congress to withhold money, which is their power, the power of the purse, to try and get the executive branch to comply with what they want to do.
Really interesting questions again today.
Interesting,
Allie.
complicated,
Yes.
but very relevant today,
Yes.
and much more than we could do in 5 minutes. But
Exactly.
maybe we'll do it again soon.
Yes, definitely. Allie, thank you so much, guys. If
Great.
you need an attorney or have any questions about any of these topics that we discuss here on the show, go to Clekis.com or call 843-9 million. Let the power of 9 million work for you.